I was instructed by Mary Carroll and company that every minister who came was expected to tell a funny story. I racked my brain about that. But also to speak in some way to you as a former pastor. You hear a lot in these stories about your experience of preachers, but if the other preachers had had a chance to caucus with me, we could have gotten even more stories about you as a congregation. I do want to tell you how critically important and decisive you were in my formation as a minister, and I have one story that I want to share. And that has to do with Dusty, who at that point was Moser, is now a Deaver, and with Mike and Charlotte Gattosi. Charlotte Gattosi was at that point teacher of preschool and children church school. And I've been here about, I suppose a year and a half, and had preached a wonderful sermon, which you can all remembered, of course, about the priesthood of all believers. And about 4 or 5 days after I preached that, I got a contact from Dusty. He came around the corner and said, Charlotte and I would like to talk with you a little bit about the priesthood of all believers, because the children were there and heard that, and they wanted to know how they were part of the priesthood of all believers. Well, but I won't go on too long because I heard the rules about how long we take. However, simply to say that it was a remarkably transforming experience for me. The first thing that happened was that Charlotte and Dusty invited me to go visit with the children in their church school class and to find out what they were thinking about. And what they were thinking about is that if you are a priest, you're supposed to preach. And they wanted to lead a worship service, not simply to be there to take up the offering, but to lead it. And we took them up on that. And Charlotte and Dusty, who is a remarkably good Christian educator, and didn't take very many yes I cans with her, they put together a remarkable service which had, rather than spoken sermons, had skits. And they were skits around certain scriptures, particularly parables. And I was given the job of reading a parable, and then they would do a skit on the front of the church to do that. It was spectacular, and I never will forget the seeking lost sheep parable. And there was a little sheep that was all garnered up with sheep's clothing that was hiding behind the pulpit. So I could not move my feet for fear of stepping on this sheep. And when the sheep was finally found, there was a great rejoicing among all. I want to tell you, at the end of that service, and this is what's so important to me about you as a congregation, and moved me deeply. I'm not sure who initiated it, but every single member of the congregation came to the back door and went through and shook every child's hand in a line. And I thought that was spectacular and one of the best examples I've used elsewhere about what the priesthood of all believers really does mean. So thank you so much for that.